Hello, my name is Lauri Palohim and this is a video commentary for the reflection of Demola project. Overall, the Demola project was an interesting experience. Had some troubles with time management and prioritizing certain tasks, but overall it was beneficial, especially in order for me to develop as a team member in an area in which I do not have previous experience on. So the first question which I would want to reflect upon is the dynamisms between theoretical and practical knowledge, the core of expertise. So as I'm on a bachelor level, there is the question of specify examples of how your disciplinary knowledge can be applied. Which disciplines could your discipline be joined with considering your Demola experience? Well, as an example from the Demola experience, there were a couple of instances where I noticed an direct connection between my background in academic philosophy and the task I'm trying to accomplish. For example, one was just asking good questions, be it either in the brainstorming sessions with people and trying to see the core assumptions behind what we are looking for, asking questions in the forms of interviews when trying to find the client's needs. That was one definitely. And also for myself and for my part of the project, how could I contribute the best? So definitely asking good questions was one example where I could see an instant benefit of my experience. And then vice versa, so there is a question of an examples of relevant or interesting knowledge that derived from practical experiences or encounters during the Demola course. How could you connect that knowledge with your disciplinary knowledge? What kind of, not that good question yet. So basically, I think one definitely was working in a very multidisciplinary team with people having different kinds of backgrounds, ways of viewing the world, some differences in values perhaps, and also the whole approach of the program. So that was definitely one, remaining diplomatic but at the same time assertive if I really do feel that I have a point which the others should understand. That was definitely one, solidarity and tolerance. And secondly, to my surprise, was as I did make the presentation and the deck for the project when we had to perform our project to the project managers in the end of Demola course. I made the deck and also the, in a way, sales script. And making the deck was interesting considering I do not have much of a previous experience, and I noticed that I genuinely enjoyed it and actually am looking to pursue some further design skills after this course. I would consider it fun and beneficial. And how did you solve the ethical issues that emerged during the project? I think it had a lot to do with the certain diplomatic atmosphere. As I previously mentioned, people might have had value differences in certain topics, which we also had to take into consideration from the client perspective, as our case was Finavia, the airport. You can expect that there is a very diverse amount of people from very different cultural backgrounds, so we had to be very polite even with our thinking, what and how should we do our things. And I think it was a lot that we listened to each other, we contemplated quite thoroughly how other people might think about our decisions if we make them. And yeah, and also especially like in between the team members, there was this certain trait of actual listening and respect, which I think contributed to a lot to the general harmony in decision making. And then to the second part, which is towards the unique twist of your expertise, dreaming and identifying paths to the future. And the bachelor level question here again is that, did you observe new employment prospects during the Demola study unit? Nope, but it generally comes back to me having a singular interest in entrepreneurship, so I was not preliminary even looking for job opportunities. If there were any, I didn't recognize them, so forth. And what kind of choices in your studies would help you develop your capacities? Okay, one which is actually coming from a definite example was that in one of our jam sessions we had as our guest one researcher from future studies. And for me personally, as a philosophy student, it kind of hit the bell, and I would definitely be very interested about it. How to get there? If there would be any courses in future studies in Helsinki University, that would be terrific. And secondly, this might be a bit too advanced at this point, but actual courses in the studies in collective/group intelligence, as what they are studying in MIT, would be extremely interesting. And thirdly, systems thinking, especially some light version of how people could apply it. And it kind of comes back to the fact that I think that our work life is becoming more networked, is becoming more social, it's becoming more interdisciplinary oriented. So if there are a multitude of different kinds of people with a bit different goals, with a bit different mindsets, etc. So how to make them work accordingly together, and how to make them understand each other and the big picture, and how can they cooperate. And I think collective intelligence and system thinking would be really interesting choices in my studies. Also, plus design for me personally would be interesting, but I think you can take that from Aalto. And what do you need to learn, and where could you learn that? Well, kind of comes back to what I previously mentioned. What could you do beyond the university studies in order to strengthen your abilities in proceeding towards your new dreams? Good question. Lots of reading on the free time. I will actually be having one online course in Udemy about animation and design, as that is very interesting to me. I already work in entrepreneurship, so that kind of includes and even demands learning these certain basic business skills such as sales, business development, etc. nothing that much more come into my mind. I think that is already quite clear. And in which ways could you keep expanding your networks within the labor market? For me personally, right now, it has a lot to do with expanding my networks into the domain of HR people, HR specialists, education people, and education specialists, and also academics. Uh, there are, of course, a lot of other sectors of people which might be interesting and maybe even useful contacts in the later future, but in this current stage of my life, based on the business I'm currently building, those are the key categories for the groups of people I aim to work and network with. And then the final question, you as an expert reflecting upon your own action in a collaborative project. So again, the sub-questions, what kinds of roles did you adopt in your team, as well as in relations to the corporate partner and researchers? Okay, I think there were multitude of roles, as the question expects. One was definitely the coach for the team, especially with some problem solving, for example, asking questions and trying to find perspectives and harmony between people. And then there was actually the whole antithesis of the previous role, which was, as we could describe it, a challenger or an originator, coming up with a lot of different kinds of ideas on how to improve our approach, what should we even be doing, and how could we achieve it, and what could it lead to into the future. So that was definitely one. Then also the salesman, so to say, in the end of the project. Like, of course, all of us did plan and prepare for the presentation, but I feel I personally contributed quite a lot in the whole discourse in how should we communicate this for the people who are managing the project in Demola and Finavia. And in corporate partner and researchers, I think it was a lot the roles of a challenger and also salesman, which people perceive as my roles. And how did the collaborative approach influence your learning? A lot, basically by revealing a lot of my weak spots. For example, getting a bit frustrated if I'm not getting my will through, and allowing myself to take a step back and understand that the goal of the whole project is more important than a certain nuance of how to achieve it. I might get carried away with one meeting with lots of brainstormings and caffeine. And there is something else also. Definitely, and also exposing me to very different kinds of approaches to this world. Like there were people coming from business, more businessy, more social and even theological background. So um, it's very easy to take your own personal bubble as the reality of the world, how the world is. So it was definitely eye-opening, frustrating, but and some other instances very educating to to get exposed to that many perspectives. And the final question is, how could you develop your action? Definitely it's a lot about personal goal setting and personal leadership, and identifying the key ways in which I could contribute the best during the beginning of the project, and encouraging others to do the same in order for people to share ownership about the project. Uh, so there would be so many cases of who is going to do this and that when there are lots of busy people who are doing lots of different things on parallel to the project. So definitely goal setting and prioritization and sharing ownership. Yeah, basically I think that's about it from my side. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the course. Was interesting experience.